Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dee Reinhardt, and I am with Illinois WorkNet. We're going to be talking today in our Exploring Careers series about tools for finding careers that match your skills and interests. And today, our guest speaker is Jan Leahy. She is the Executive Director of the Career Resource Center. And Jan, would you like to tell the audience where your Career Resource Center is located?
Well, thank you, Dean. I'm so excited to be involved in this and included as a guest speaker. We're located in Lake Forest, Illinois, and serve people from all over metropolitan Chicago. And then we are a nonprofit career transition center and have served, probably almost 12,000 individuals in the time that we've been in business. So I'm delighted to be with you.
Thank you very much. That's just wonderful that you're available for the job seekers in the area. Before we get started, I'm going to pull out a poll question for everybody to answer that's on the webinar right now. Have you ever taken a career interest survey? Looks like we've got a lot of people that have. Look at the numbers, 81.8 and 18.1. Oh, it just changed. So if you've just joined us, please download the handout in the pod in the lower right-hand corner. And we have a poll up right now that says, have you ever taken a career interest survey? So we'll give you just a second to answer that before we move on. And now we're going to hide this poll. So Jan, let's talk a little bit about careers and how people go about doing career interest surveys. We've got two resources on the screen right now that are from Illinois WorkNet specifically. And if you click on those links in your PDF handout, they will take you directly to those tools. But in the first tool, it talks about interest profiler, skills profiler, work importance locator, and then the career paths that you might associate with those different skills and interests. So why is it important for somebody to do a career interest survey, Jan?
Well, I think often, we don't really know exactly what we want to do, or we've done something before and we're in a transition and say, I'm not so sure I want to continue doing that, but I don't know what it is that I want to do. And so if you take some kind of career interest survey, whether it be these or others, and the one that we're referring to early on gives you lots of options, it can give you some answers, and the answers may be only confirming what you already know, but that's a good thing. Or it may give you some new ideas that you haven't thought about. And it doesn't take a lot of time to actually do some of these. The other aspect of conducting these is when you're presenting yourself to a new employer, you'll have more information about yourself that you're able to use to talk about the talents and interests that you have. And so it gives you, multiple things. One, help you decide direction, and the other, help you articulate what you bring to the table.
That's really great. And it helps you learn a little bit more about yourself. The one important part in this, in our particular career interest survey, is the work importance locator. And a couple of the things that they talk about in there is, do you want to work days? Do you want to work nights? Do you want to work shift work? Do you want to work at a desk? How far away from home are you willing to travel? So some of those things come into play that are just as important as what you can bring to the table with your skills and interests. And I think that's something that everybody needs to pay attention to. For our Employment 101 guide, this resource gives you the opportunity to do some research, to answer some very important questions to help you plan out what you need to do. It also helps you achieve your goals by letting you determine, is this something that requires training? Is this something that I just need to do a little spruce up on? Or is it something that requires full-blown, let's go get a degree or an associate certificate for that particular item. So I think those things are very important. Let's talk a little bit more. Besides Illinois WorkNet having these wonderful tools, where else can individuals find some things? But before we talk, let's pull out this poll question. Who of our listening audience has a career plan? What do you think about those answers, Jan?
I think it's amazing. It was almost, well, a third at one point.
Right, right.
So so I think the sort of probably is more normal.
For everybody, yeah, I think so too. All right, we're going to hide this poll question. Let's take a look, and Jan, let's talk about what these items are. Why don't you start with those community colleges?
Yeah, I think the community colleges are absolutely wonderful because they are required to provide people who reside in their community services for the individuals who aren't going to school. And one of the services they offer are career assessment testing. And it depends upon which community college you're going to. Some of them are free, and some of them will charge you a small amount of money. But in addition to the tests that you take, they usually will give you a counseling session to discuss kind of what you think you want to do and decide which tests are best for you. And then they will schedule the testing sessions. And when you're finished, you will also have another session to interpret the test. And a lot of tests you can take online, but you don't get someone else to help you interpret what they mean. And so these are professional career counselors who actually can do that for you. And it might be a skills test. It might be a style, like the Myers-Briggs would be, what is your style? It might be what you're interested in. And then they can combine all of those, and it can lead you to some ideas about careers that might fit your style, your skills, and your interest. Sometimes the community colleges will actually let you take the testing if you work in that community or live in that community, and some you have to actually live within their boundaries. So I know the College of Lake County does testing for free. I know Oakton does testing, but there is I think it's a small charge. And Harper also does it. So those are the ones I'm familiar with.
And I know that if you're taking the skills tests on the Illinois WorkNet site and happen to be working with a case manager through Illinois WorkNet, the offices there, they will help you interpret the tests that you take on Illinois WorkNet as well. I'm sure if you printed out a copy and carried it with you to a community college, they'd take a strong look at it and include that in the assessment that they help you with as well.
Yeah, and also for what we do at Career Resource Center is we refer almost all of our candidates out to the colleges for the testing, and then they can bring the results back to us, and then we can help work on a plan and a focus with them from that step if they want to do that.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Let's talk about these other two resources on the screen as well.
One of my favorites is What Color is Your Parachute? And most people know that as a big, thick book, and it's kind of like ominous, and why would I want to read that whole thing? And Bowles has been writing this book about job search for a very, very long time and does a wonderful job. But they have a workbook that you can either purchase separately or you can download to your iPad. What it does is what the best part of it is, it asks you questions that I think you might forget to ask yourself. And so basically what you end up with if you do all the exercises, and you don't have to do them all, is it's kind of a flower with little petals. And each petal is about a different area. One might be what environment do you want to work in. One might be, how much money would you want to be paid. One might be, what skill sets do they need to use in that thing, or what kind of people you want to work with. So, and then you come up with all these answers which give you direction. And then you can start launching a plan from that position.
And you need to do your background work to be able to figure out what your plan is going to actually be.
Yeah, and all of these help you with the background, because what I like, and which I said before, any one of these things you do will give you information that you can use when you're talking to a potential employer about who you are and what you're looking for and what makes you a competitive candidate, why you're viable, why you're unique. So the next one on the list is called Strength Finder, and there's a book called Strength Finder 2.0 that you can purchase and read, but you also can go online and take their test. Now, they have different nomenclature or language for the different skill sets than you normally will see places. But lots of people are very familiar with this, and again, this gives you a jumping off point for describing what you bring to the table to an employer.
Now, I'm thinking about the question that we almost always get asked in an interview is, what are your strengths or what are your weaknesses? And I would like to hear what you think about doing these sorts of things would help you be able to answer those questions.
Oh, definitely. I mean, because I think what happens when you do any of these, and I don't think you should do all of them, if you do any of these, you become more familiar with yourself. And you build some language from them, little catchwords about what you're really good at, or what you like to do, or how you do certain things. And so then you really can use those. It kind of gives you, I would say it gives you an overview of who you are, and it gives some specifics about who you are. And you can talk to people and say, well, this is something that I'm really terrific at, and I can bring this to the table and help you do whatever it is that they need to be done. But yes, definitely.
We have a comment in the chat pod. It says, Strength Finder is a great tool for helping people utilize their strengths. Thanks, Diane, for adding that. Quad Cities wants to know, is there a fee for Strength Finder or the other testing platforms? And I believe you had answered that, Jan, but could you answer it again?
Yeah, there is the Strength Finder, I believe, is around $9.99 or something like that to take the test online and get 5 of your top skills. If you want to get all of them, which is 30-something, it's expensive, and I don't know that I would do that. But the little book that you can buy I don't think is very expensive, and in the book they have a code in the back that you can go online and then take the test for free. The What Color is My Parachute, you really aren't taking a test online for that, but the little booklet might be somewhere between $12 and $20, but you can download it to your iPad, and I think it's only $4 to do that.
One thing I noticed when I was looking for an image to include in this presentation, the Richard Bowles, who has written this book, is now only writing updates to this book. And he says that it is a full-time job just writing the updates to keep this What Color is Your Parachute going. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Kelly added that the workbook hard copy is $12.99 for What Color is Your Parachute. So thank you for adding that as well. If you are having difficulty hearing over your computer speakers, please dial into the phone number that is at the bottom of your screen, 866-821-1611. If you, we're going to pull out this poll question here to see if we all know what transferable skills are. So which of these are a transferable skill? How are they doing, Jan?
Well, it looks like they're doing excellently. I think everybody is good at solving problems or knows that they can do that in a lot of different places.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So let's talk about, I'm gonna kind of leave that poll question there, but I'm going to shift to the next slide. And what we've done is we've defined transferable skills as those skills in life that you already know or do that you can use in a new field or job. So let's take a look real quick at taking blood pressure or operating a forklift. Are those transferable skills? Jan, what do you think?
Well, I would say they aren't transferable skills, but they need to look behind what they're doing to see what the transferable skill is there. So if they're operating a forklift, they probably have a lot of capabilities in other equipment that they can operate instead of just the forklift. And so maybe having the capability of operating a multitude of different things might be something that they could talk about. But transferable skills are more elusive usually in the sense of not quite so specific.
Right. So as we have on the list, we have negotiation, solving problems, being a team player, time management, dealing with data, working with people. So dealing with data is that thing about what you just said about looking behind the specific item. So maybe they can work with Access, or they can work with a CRM, or they can work with an Excel database. Dealing with data is maybe not the specific program, but the fact that they can work with different data or data sources, right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about soft skills. Jan, why don't you explain what we were talking about meaning for soft skills?
Yeah, typically with soft skills, it has to do with relationships with people. You know, how do you manage people? How do you interact with people? How do you engage with other individuals? How do you get maybe 2 or 3 people to work on a team together? Or, you know, if you are managing some people, it might be how to engage the people that are working for you in achieving their goals. It might be having to have a difficult conversation with someone, and how do you do that in a nice, well, I don't know, I never want to say nice way, but how do you do it in an effective way? That would be kind of my definition of soft skills.
A couple of the other things that we know as very definite soft skills is punctuality and attendance. Being able to resolve conflict, solving problems is another one, time management is another, being the team player listed. All of these transferable skills all pretty much fall under the soft skills parameter. So that's one thing that you can take to the bank with you when you're looking at applying for a job. And in a lot of cases, in all of the previous presentations that we've had, it seems like unless there are specific certifications required for a job or licenses required for a job, many employers feel that soft skills that you can exhibit through conversation or example are those kind of skills that will help you obtain a job, and the employer will potentially teach you the job skills or the hard skills that they want you to know.
You know, and that's absolutely true in some cases. That doesn't mean that an employer is going to take someone who doesn't know anything and teach them everything, but they may be looking more at the soft skills that are available. If there's minor technical things that they need to know that they can learn easily, on the basis that if you don't know how to solve problems, typically that's a little bit more difficult to teach someone to do, whereas if you don't know how to use their own software but you know other software, that might be very teachable.
Correct. Correct. Good point. All right. Let's move forward in our presentation here. And we have this program that we've discovered. It's called Road Trip Nation, and I've got the link for the website at the bottom of the screen. But one of the things that I found is that it helps youth, and this is geared more toward students that are still in school, uh, how to define and refine their career choices. And as I was jumping around the website, and Jan, let me know if you found anything really interesting that you liked as well, but they've got this AVID program for 10th grade students that's based on projects that they participate in. There's an alternative education program that they use to help decrease the dropout rate. The Road Trip Nation experience was kind of like the career interest survey, where you can discover what you want to do based on some examples and some things that they have on their website. And the one for the exploration was for 6th to 8th grade students to have exposure to career pathways. So I thought that was pretty interesting there, as well as what I thought was wonderful was their interview archive. How often do we talk about doing informational interviews with people to find out what they like about their job? And so this particular program has an interview archive that has interviews with over 3,500 professionals in hundreds of different industries. Did you find anything really spectacular about this this program online that you wanted to note to the audience, Jan?
Well, I also like the interviews because these are people who, you can actually click on their picture and you can get some information from them about what they do, why they like what they do. That can be very helpful, and a little bit about what their job actually entails. There was another section on Road Trip Nation that I couldn't get you from this link, but that did also have some questions that you could be asked and do a little assessment.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. It's always nice to find different resources, and Diane mentioned career cruising. Has anybody else used career cruising? If you have, raise your hand with the little man at the top of the screen. We've got a couple of people that have raised their hands, so that's good. So keep in mind just to take a look and see if there are other programs that you can find to help your participants, your students, or adults even, who might be in need of exploring different career options. Help them find it, and there's different ways that people use tools, so they might find one that is more preferable to their way of thinking or doing things than ones that you might have found already. Moving on, how do you use the information that you found to find that right career path? And one of the resources that we always recommend to people is ONET. And ONET Online has a valuable set of resources that's at a national level that you can enter a keyword and find all of the careers that are associated with that particular keyword. So take a look at ONET Online, as well as when you explore career clusters and different demand occupations. We have a great resource on Illinois WorkNet under Exploring Careers, where all of these webinars are going to be posted, that will help you explore, I believe it's 9, it could be 11, different career clusters to help you identify jobs that are within a particular career cluster. And when you see the symbol and the icon here that we have on the screen indicates the growth potential of a demand occupation. So looking at those ones that are in demand will help you hopefully not find yourself in a layoff situation down the road. So if you look for those demand occupations while you're searching in the career clusters, it helps you even more. Also,
the ONET is really very nice, and it gives you a wonderful description of different occupations And sometimes you get some information. Someone says you might be really good at doing something or good at this, or you heard that someone else is doing something, and so you can go in here and look it up, and it'll give you a really nice, expansive description, and then you can say, oh, gee, that fits, or that's really not what I thought it was. And, it gives you a quick way to look at information without actually having to go out and do some informational interviewing, and then you can choose the ones that you like out of that might fit you best.
The other thing about ONET is it takes you back to state-level information. So if you're looking at something that looks like it's high growth, you always can click onto the state information, for example, Illinois, that would take you back and let you know how it's doing in Illinois particularly. So I like that a lot. Let's talk a little bit about local labor market information. We already had a webinar on this, and unfortunately we have to re-record it, so watch for the scheduled re-recording of this webinar. But local labor market information helps you understand what is going on growth-wise as well as wage-wise in your particular area. So I won't go into great detail, but one of the questions that an employer will often ask in an interview is, what kind of wage do you need to make? Or what do you think you're worth, in other words? And one of the things that I've always discovered is you have to be able to give them a range, and by using local labor market information, it helps you discover what that wage range is. Because if you're looking at something at a state level, it might be $25 an hour, but in your particular area, that $25 an hour might be too low or too high. So knowing what that wage range is can be found with your local labor market information. Do you recommend that stuff with your job seekers, Jan?
It's really important to get what I call marketplace intelligence. So understanding about the company you're going to, understanding what the labor market is. They're also online. There's salary.com where you can, for free, get some general benchmarks on different jobs in different zip codes. And so it really helps you immensely to be armed with all of this information before you walk in the door to talk to an employer, so that you have a sense about what they might be paying locally, and what the company is like. That helps tremendously.
Right. The growth potential shown through labor market information also shows a projected number of openings over a 10-year period of time. So that always helps you determine what are the potential for having and or keeping a job in that particular market as well. Tika asks, does it compare with cost of living? Cost of living is different than a career or a wage range. And if you use some of the labor market information based on your locale, meaning a living wage in Chicago is different than a living wage in Carbondale. A living wage in Peoria is different than a living wage in Paducah. So you have to take all of those things into consideration and try to find the balance of information that you need, and using different sources will help you determine what that cost of living actually should be, and you too. So great. I was just going to ask you if that answered your question, Tika. All right, so she beat me to the answer. She just wanted me to be quiet. So let's move on to the next slide, and let's take a look at what are the next steps after somebody has gained all of this information. What are the next steps that someone needs to do? So Jan, let's talk about information interviews.
Well, I referred to informational interviews when we were talking about clicking on those on the Road Nation, where you can actually hear people talk about their jobs. But one of the things that can be enormously helpful is when you finally get to the place where you say, well, I think I might like to be doing this work, or I might want to do that, but I need to know a little more. And before you go try to market yourself to do that, it helps tremendously to talk to someone who is actually doing that. And I think you'll be surprised at how many people are willing to take the time to share a little bit about the job that they do. And then the question would be, how do you do that? Typically, what you want to do is ask people that you know if they know somebody. Let's just say that you decided that you want to be, a database manager. And if you wanted to do that, but you don't know what the management aspects of it are required, you can talk to somebody who does it and ask them questions. And before you go talk with them, you want to build a list of questions that you have about that. And most people really like to talk about their own jobs, how they got there, what they like about it. You can even ask questions about, so what kinds of requirements would you expect someone to have, and skill sets if they came to this job. And maybe another example would be, let's say you decided you wanted to be, I'm trying to think of something different that you didn't know a lot about, that isn't so specific as a database manager.
How about a wind turbine repair person?
There you go. And that might have that might be somebody who has transferable skills from a very different job, but their mechanical capabilities or electrical capabilities will give them the skills they need to do that part instead of repairing something else.
Right, right. And there's a whole list of questions that you can ask people. You just kind of got to figure out what is it that you really want to know, and you want to be mindful of their time. It's kind of like when in grade schools they have career day where the person brings their parent and the parent talks about what they do. So the policeman and the fireman and the always get all the big questions, but the corporate executive might not get the questions because somebody doesn't know what to ask. So that's knowing what to ask is the important thing.
Yeah, and I get people even coming to me and saying, I run a nonprofit organization, so they might have lots of questions about different things that they might say, well, what is it like working in a nonprofit organization? How is it different from working in a corporate setting or an education setting? And so they want, because they're thinking of maybe moving from a corporate setting into a nonprofit setting or from an educational setting to a nonprofit setting. They want to know kind of what the differences are. And we actually at the center will often have somebody come in from a different discipline to talk about what it's like. We usually will have a program on government jobs. We'll also have a program about working in nonprofits so people can kind of get a sense about what the differences are and how they need to market themselves a little differently.
That's a really good idea. Let's move on and talk about job shadowing and internships and see what those things can bring to you.
Well, the job shadowing is wonderful. If you have someone that you know who's doing what you would like to be doing, ask them if you can come in and shadow them or spend an hour with them or a half a day with them just to see what they're doing. I think most of us have heard about job shadowing for students who will often go with their parent to work. I think they have shadowing days once a year in a lot of school systems. But other people would be willing to have you shadow them to see what it really is like. And if you're doing something, it helps immensely to just sit and watch somebody else do it and see what their job entails for the day.
Yes. The other thing that is on the screen is about joining groups to find out more information. One of the things that you can do is join groups on applications like LinkedIn so that you find out what the whole deal is. And many of the groups nowadays are open, which means that you don't have to have anything specific in a job title, but some of them are closed, which means you have to have that job title in your profile so that when they're checking it that you can be included. But it's a great way to ask questions and to find out information. Also on LinkedIn specifically, they have under the keywords, there are some descriptions about what that particular keyword means. So if you're looking for a particular certification or skill that somebody has, you can click on that word and find out the definition of it, which is a really great tool. Now, I just added in the chat pod a link to our LinkedIn group for Illinois Virtual Job Club Network. And it's a group on LinkedIn, and as long as you are a resident in Illinois, you are welcome to join our group. And what other kind of groups or items would you recommend that somebody join, Jan?
Well, I think what you've talked about is very specifically, I mean, you could even go to association meetings that are related to what you want to do. So if you wanted to be a fundraiser for a nonprofit, but you haven't done that before, but you've done some volunteer work doing that, or you've been doing business development in a corporate setting, you may have a friend who would invite you. You can always ask someone you know who does that to go to one of their conferences or go to one of their meetings. But there's so many groups. There's so many blogs. There's a way to comment on an article, and someone would comment back to you, asking questions online in any kind of the groups that you might join would be a really good way to get not only to get the knowledge, but it starts connecting you to people who might be in the business you're interested in going into.
Oh, that's a great way, because networking face-to-face is becoming more and more difficult, but networking online is very, very easy. Well, that's really great information that you shared with us today, Jan. I want to thank Jan Leahy of the Career Resource Center for participating in this webinar today. She brought some very valuable information to this presentation, and I want to thank her very much for joining us. We have recorded this, and we will be posting it online on our website as well as on our YouTube channel. So thanks so much for joining us today, Jan.
Well, thank you. It's a great pleasure to participate, and I have enjoyed doing this, and hope that this has been very helpful to those who are attending.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for joining us today, and we watch for the recording on this online. Have a great afternoon.